My name is Mariah King. I am an Education Abroad Program Coordinator in the Global Education Department. Basically, I advise students who would like to go abroad either for a summer or for a semester. I support you all to go there. So we'll talk a little bit about it today, not so much. Today we're just going to talk about general travel tips, how to travel as an adult, things that you should keep in mind. But also, if you have any questions at all about studying abroad, we have some postcards there for you to take, and also you can ask me any questions at any time.
My name is Andy. I'm a senior here at Kennesaw. I'm also a global ambassador. I did a semester in Germany last year, so I'm also here to help explain and give tips on the traveling if you guys are interested.
So hopefully a lot of what we're talking about today will help you to figure out how to travel on your own or with friends, or if you're already a really, really good traveler, maybe there'll be some pro tips here that'll help take your travel to the next level. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is basically three different things. How do you plan for your trip? How do you prepare for your trip? And then if time allows, we're going to get into when you're in whatever country you're in, or hey, even if it's here in the US and you're going to a different state, or you have like a trip planned out west, how do you get the most out of that experience in a safe, but also in a way that is transformative for yourself and also hopefully for the folks that you'll meet on your journey. So planning is key. And one thing that I get told a lot is, oh, I'm not a planner. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to wing it. I don't like writing things down. But in reality, I think everyone is a planner in some way. It's just more or less, are you an efficient planner? I'm going to have Andy, I see we have some other GAs here, so I will try to refrain from asking them as well. But when we get into talking about our itineraries and how we do plans, I am a very planned person. I like to know where I'm going to go. I like to know about how much time I'm going to spend there. I like to get into the details. I have other friends, and I'm not sure, Andy, how do you like to plan? Are you in the weeds, in the details, or are you more of a higher order, bigger picture kind of planner?
And honestly, it would always depend on where I was going, but for the most part, I would get the group that I chose to go with, and then we go into pretty good detail about where we're going to go, for how long, and then that's when the budget comes in, and then use different resources to find where we're going to go. So I would say pretty in detail to make sure we don't get in trouble.
Okay. Well, just know yourself and really just make sure that you know that planning is key. So let's talk about it. The first thing that I do is I try to identify my goals for every single trip. Every country is different, every city is different, and you're different. Maybe in one city, let's say, for example, I had the opportunity to support students this summer in Japan. Tokyo is a very urban, it's a large area. There's also amazing anime studios and things. Versus if I'm traveling, say, to Greece this summer, there's beaches and things like that, I would have different goals. So some goals that I think are very common, and then I may ask you all if you'd like to share out like what some of your goals might be, is food traveling. Some people are like, no matter where I go, I want to make sure that I eat the local foods, or maybe they have, for example, this is not a picture of it, but one thing that I really wanted to try was a Hakata style of ramen. It's thicker, there's reasons why I wanted to try it, but that was something I wanted to make sure I included in my itinerary and my plans. Or maybe natural wonders. I'm a big hiker. I'm a big outdoors person. Everywhere I go, I really like to try to focus on experiencing the landscape. For some of my other friends who are not big hikers, they focus a lot more on one-of-a-kind experiences. So some of my friends have always wanted to go to Austria and Germany during the Christmas time to actually experience and enjoy the Christmas markets. That's in Vienna, this one here. And then there's others who are really, really, really big city explorers. They want to enjoy the nightlife. They want to walk through alleys. They want to see artworks, or they would like to enjoy the vibes of a city. I've listed off so many other things at the top. Your goals are your goals. It's just really important that you're clear to yourself about what they are, because along the way, you're going to have to make strategic decisions about your budget. How much do I want to expend on food? Some of my friends, believe it or not, they don't care about food. So their food budget is very low. They'll go to the combini. They'll just have, little snacks, and they would like to spend their money on more maybe luxury experiences or on a number of things. So What about you? What would you say were some of your goals or some of your goals, Andy, when you travel?
I would say definitely I was more of a one of a kind. I went to Germany in the fall for the Christmas markets and all over Europe because it's incredible when you go to these different cities and have these markets. Food also, love different food from different countries. But I would say I love looking at like architecture and building stuff like that. So I would focus mine more on like older cities, stuff like that, to see like, castles or these just, monuments, stuff like that. So definitely one of a kind for sure.
Okay, that's good. See, I like buildings and monuments. I like the one of a kind. I would probably include some of what Andy has mentioned, but it would probably be maybe a second or third priority for my overall trip. I will say that is honestly a really, really, really good goal, especially even when it comes down to some of your accommodations, where you might stay. If you're interested in being surrounded by people, or just even having the opportunity to get to know someone in the country, or get to know other travelers, then I think we'll talk about it, you're gonna wanna make some different decisions about the types of transportation you might take when you're in the country, as well as the type of accommodations you may stay in. So, okay, so let's move forward. After you have sort of identified a goal, you've sort of identified a place, the next thing to do is to make an itinerary. Again, for some people, this will be very detailed. For other people, they don't want it to be that detailed because they're nervous that maybe they will overplan and they may not leave any room for serendipity and spontaneous encounters. So some resources that I recommend, one has already come up, which is TikTok. I know that there's a lot of viral things that go on there. One pro tip I will say though is TikTok is a good resource, but sometimes if you know about those things and someone else knows about that popular place, everyone's going to swarm there. And so I would probably think about, okay, are there related experiences? I'll give you two examples. One example this summer was apparently something went viral on TikTok about this one view of Mount Fuji in this gas station. Someone put it on TikTok and everyone swarmed to this one gas station in this huge area to get that exact same view of Mount Fuji because it was on TikTok. There were thousands of people there. And I was shocked because just, maybe 2 or 3, minutes down the road, not even 2 or 3 minutes, there was another gas station with the same view. But because everyone heard about it on TikTok, they wanted that view. So my point is, use TikTok as a resource, but definitely make sure you understand that it may be very busy because other people also know about that place. I use Lonely Planet a lot. If we have time, I will click on it. I use Lonely Planet as a way to figure out what areas of a country I may want to spend the most time in. The reality is we don't all have, 3 and 4 months or even a whole month to travel. We may just have 2 weeks. So figuring out what region within the country or within California or wherever you're going to go will help you to then get to a more detailed itinerary. Lonely Planet is a great resource for that. And I'll show you on the next slide some of those. Wanderlog is pretty good. I use that as an itinerary builder. So instead of just writing everything out, you can use a resource like Wanderlog to actually put in, okay, on this day I'll be in Tokyo, and this day I will be in Kyoto, and this day I'll be in Nara. And I'll show you what that looks like. And honestly, I don't know if you all use it very much, but Reddit is one of my favorite resources. It's people explaining, maybe they've already done an itinerary, maybe they've traveled, maybe there are things that they thought went well or things that they thought didn't go well, and you can get a lot of good information about that. What do you use, Andy, when you travel? Like, what are some resources you're using when you're thinking about your itinerary?
I'd say TikTok probably the most. TikTok would help me find, like you said, like viral places. Sometimes they suck, sometimes they're amazing. Reddit is actually really good too. I would just type in the city, what to do, and then people that have already been there. I mean, that's the best source right there, somebody that's already done it. So Reddit is the best. Oh, TikTok is my favorite, and then Reddit, yeah.
Right. What about the rest of you? I know some of you travel with family. Are there other resources that we don't have listed here that you can share with the group? That's actually a really good one. Instagram, I saw another hand.
I was going to say travel bloggers.
Travel bloggers, that's good. Oh, Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook's good.
Get Your Guide, that was mentioned. Okay.
YouTube.
YouTube.
Blogs. I want to see it all.
Okay, YouTube, that's a really, really good one. Wow, we have a lot of Okay, lemonade. I haven't heard that one before. That's a good one. Who else? I saw some other hands. Okay, Twitch too. Last call for resources. I know people will be watching this later, so I just want to get it all out there. Go ahead. Yeah, Rick Steves' book. So Rick Steve is, he mostly focuses on Europe, and he gives different advice. I will say Rick Steves, we're going to talk about budgeting. Rick Steves, I would say, is for mostly like a mid-range traveler. That means you're not a budget traveler, but you're not looking for the most luxurious expenses. So Rick Steves can be a good resource. I love rough guides. Rough guides at y'all's age and at my age, on the younger end, those are the more, you're open to different accommodations, a little bit more budget travel, or you just want to get off the beaten trail. You don't want to go to those like TikTok places and things like that. Rough Guides is good. And then Lonely Planet, I think, is a good blend of all those things. But no matter what resources you're using, you really want to consider these things. And Andrew, you can let me know if I've left something off here. One is your goals. Again, what are your top priorities? Okay, sure, I'm going to Tokyo, but of all the things I can do, I want to make sure I go to the Studio Ghibli Animation Museum. And then I will plan all my other activities around whatever that day is or those series of days. So your must-sees. Duration, too. How much time will you have? It's very different. You know, you're going to have a different itinerary if you have 2 weeks versus 1 week, or in one of my cases when I had a layover, only 1 day. You know, what can you do in a day? And then your travel dates. When will you travel? This is very important when it comes down to costs. I think most of you have said you've traveled before, but you know there's a low season for a particular country, which means there's not going to be as many travelers. There also may not be as many services for tourists at that time due to weather or holidays or what have you. Then there's a shoulder season, which means it's not popular. There's not a ton of people. There's not a few people. Services may still be active in where you're going to go. And then the high season. The high season traveling in a country during what's called the high season gets very expensive. For example, someone that's traveling to Greece in July, their plane ticket will be about $1,500, about $1,500. For that same person to go during a shoulder season, say in April, that ticket may only be $800 or $700. And then for a low season, it can be down to $500 or $600 if you're getting a deal. So that's why really thinking about when you're going to travel, your own personal schedule. I think you all are students. And then are you flexible on your dates? I'm going to do a little plug for our study abroad programs. If you were to join one of our summer study abroad programs, many students will often take that as an opportunity to continue to travel. So they'll take their courses, they'll earn their credits, 3 to 6 credit hours in just 2 weeks, and then they will, instead of coming back to the United States, they will stay and they will continue to travel. And then that's when you can think about, okay, well, now I'll have a month. I can spare a month and a half. Cost, how much money do you have to spend? That's probably the most limiting factor. If you join our study abroad programs, we have many scholarships that we will support you in applying to. Scholarship season is now, so please see me or come to our office in the ALC building on the 5th floor if you want to chat about that. How much will the trip likely cost? There are some places that are just going to be more expensive than others. Traveling is in a wonderful place like Thailand. It's just never going to be as expensive as going to, say, Japan. So keeping in mind and being realistic about what your budget is and what budget you can have for a destination is very important. And then finally, group size. Am I traveling by myself or with others? Andy, how do you usually travel? Are you usually a solo traveler? Do you travel with a group? And if so, like what's that group size? And does it matter in terms of cost and experience?
The group size is for me very important, and I was going to say this too. I like to travel in a group. I don't like to go by myself necessarily because when I'm with a group, it's just more fun to experience just anything really. Like with your friends, it's more fun. One important thing about going with your friends though is you make sure you choose the right friends because you know your friends. Some people are not going to want to walk 40,000 steps. They're not going to want to be in the cold. So you're going to have complainers. Don't go with them.
That to me sounds like that's not a good, again, back to the goals. Oops, can't go back. They weren't maybe not aligned on their goals. Right. I solo travel sometimes because I love my friends, but they do not like to do all the hiking and the nature things. Yep. And I do. They're very slower. They're slower. they want to sleep in when they're on vacation, and they want to just hit the city and do shopping, which is fine for some trips, but maybe on others, I would like to not do that. Continue.
But, yeah, that's exactly right. People, you have to make sure everybody agrees on what you want to do. Make sure you have the right people with you. I like a group of 4. Public transport always is 4 seats, like 2 facing each other, and it's 2 duos if you ever have to split apart. So I like 4. I've traveled in 6 before, not a big deal. I've also traveled in groups of 20.
Ooh.
That's chaotic. So it just depends. I like group of 4, and yeah, I prefer groups more so.
And again, group travel is great. You will share a lot. You can share a lot of costs and expenses. Solo travel, depending on where you go, it can get expensive because you don't have anyone that's sharing the cost of certain things. I just wanted to give you a quick example. This is from Lonely Planet. Let's say you wanted to go to Sweden. They have a lot of sample itineraries that you don't have to follow at all. I never follow them, but it's good to see, like, okay, if I only have 4 days, this is about how much I can do. We don't have a ton of time to talk about it today, but every country really has different forms of transportation, and different areas are connected in different ways. So even though you may see all these things on the map, if you haven't done your research, it may not be feasible or possible for you to visit, that place just north of Athens, because there's not a lot of connectivity there. Maybe there's just a bus, and that bus takes, 4 or 5 hours, depending on the season. So this is an example. This is an example of the Wonder Log I was telling you. This was the trip that I did in Japan this summer. And you can see, I just use it as a way for me to see, okay, where am I going to go? Like, what day am I going to do what? And once I'm in the country, honestly, I never look at this. I just use it to make sure that because I'm traveling so much and I'm moving so much, that I have all my accommodations booked, and I have that, security, that I know that I've booked everything and I have everything arranged. So the number 1 rule is plan, but be flexible, okay? Secondly, prepare your budget. I don't think that anyone here travels without knowing about roughly how much you're gonna spend. Of course, you'll know what your flight is, you have to get there, but please do not forget to budget all of the other categories. Your accommodations, I have some friends who don't book their accommodation in advance. I would never do that. I like the security of knowing that I have all that, I know where I'm gonna sleep. But have your accommodation, your food. The food category is very personal. If you're like me and you like to snack and you like to have meals, that means I need a slightly higher budget, because I know I'm going to eat breakfast every morning. I'm going to have a snack somewhere. It's in Japan. I want to try all these different things or whatever. I will have a slightly higher food budget versus my friend who's like, I don't need any of that. I don't even care to have all those things. She would have a slightly lower. Your in-country transportation, this is a category where your expenses can go up. If you're taking the metro, if you're, and you don't know how much the metro costs and how much your trips are going to cost, that can add up. So try to get that. Do your research. Lonely Planet will tell you. I don't think TikTok will tell you so much about this was $10, this was $5. It might, but you do that, and you can tell me too, Andy, how you estimate your costs. How do you estimate your costs? Do you do a budget, or how do you think about the finances?
I kind of just, a lot of the times I would sort of wing it, but also not really. Like the flight, obviously you have to secure right away, and then I would also book my accommodations ahead of time. I have been caught where I had nowhere to sleep before.
Wow.
Do not do that.
Safety.
Food just depends. If I'm going to a city where food is like important, I'm going to spend the money on it. I budget for it. If it's like, whatever, you can lower it a little bit on that. Transportation is important. It does get very expensive depending on what country you go to, so always look up beforehand. So yeah, I budget transportation for sure, because sometimes it's crazy.
It's a creeping category.
Yeah, it's a
You're like,
bad
oh,
one.
it was only $2 for that trip, only $2. Okay, but you're trying to see everything in Tokyo, so you're actually getting on and off of that train. So now what you thought was $2, that's like $20 for that day.
And a lot of countries have passes you can buy beforehand you go for these things for travelers. So that can be like $500 for the week. So that will go in the budget section too. And then, tickets, you can look ahead of time. Oh, I want to go to this museum. I want to go to here. So then $50, $60, budget for that too.
You really do need to, again, think about your activities. There are some things that are going to be popular and you have to book them in advance. Example, I really wanted to go to a baseball game in Japan. I'd wanted to see their Giants there, the Tigers. They were so popular though that even booking months in advance, I had missed that window. So I settled for another one. It was awesome. It was great. But I booked that in advance. I did go to a second baseball game. I did not book that one in advance because I just thought this was so wonderful. I have to experience this again. But again, if there's something you really want to do, make sure that you look it up and see if you're going to need to have tickets in advance. Otherwise, you may get to the country and get disappointed that you can't do that. Okay, we're going to keep.
Yeah.
Any
Sure.
other budget tips?
I would just have money for like, I usually call it my like mess up money. If something bad happens, you lose something, or this costs a little more than you thought, I would just bring extra money, like $400 or $500, in case something happens. You don't have to spend it. You have it if you need to, but I always brought extra money in case something happened. I missed something like that, stuff like that.
So the last advice about the budget I will say is I always over budget. It's always better to think that you're going to need more money. So if I know the accommodation is going to be, if I think it's going to be 120, I'm going to do like 150, 130. And then if I don't end up using that money, that's just either extra money that's back in my pocket or that I can use for souvenirs. Because I don't like to shop a lot, but when you have people that you love, like little nieces or friends, they always want things. So you should always plan on bringing some souvenirs back. Okay, prepare. You know where you're going to go. You have your itinerary. It's time to start booking things. So we're just going to talk about finding your flights, booking your accommodations, and then packing. So finding your flights. This is. I think you all have. You said you've traveled and you have. So you've likely booked flights. You know that prices fluctuate a lot. Right now, people who were probably wanting to travel a couple months ago, right now, they're probably seeing the just average of the airline tickets, even domestically, are so high because of, like larger events that don't really have to do with travel, but it's impacting the price. So first of all, search and set up flight alerts. Some people think you need to book a year out. No, please do not book your flight a year out. You're going to get charged the most. You're going to get charged the highest amount. The sweet spot is usually about, well, it really depends, but usually within the 4-month range, 5 months. Anything, in my opinion, anything in my experience, anything that's so far out, like 8 months, 12 months, you're just getting charged. You're just getting charged. You may get charged at high rates. Search and set up flight alerts. Google Flights. What flight searcher do you use when you're looking for your flights?
Skyscanner.
I love
Skyscanner's the best
Skyscanner.
one. Yeah, for sure.
Skyscanner, you can put, let's see if it'll let me do it. I'm actually going to click it. Yes, it will let you see. So one thing to do if you have the money and the time, this is Skyscanner. What I like to do, if you don't care where you want to go, you're just looking for a cheap flight to any country, you don't care, Skyscanner lets you put Explore Everywhere, and it also lets you put flexible dates. So you can, and it'll tell you too, well, let's say we want it, can someone tell me like a country? Just yell it out. Who? Okay, let's put that in. Okay, let's do that. Let's say I don't care, I just really want to go to Punta Cana. I don't care when the time is. I want to know when it's the cheapest. It'll let you, when you click your depart date, it'll show you when the cheapest dates are going to be. So this is my favorite one to use. So search and then set up flight alerts. If you do have a specific travel date and a specific location and you're not flexible on the dates, every day the flight price is changing. If you set up an alert, it'll let you know, hey, it's $300 cheaper right now. You wanna book right now. Or it'll let you know, actually, the prices have plateaued. They are not likely going to go down. Now they're starting to go up and up and up. So you probably want to book now so that you don't get on that higher end. So that goes to my next point, be flexible, meaning yes, like try to wait to get that deal, but please do book. Prices fluctuate in both directions. If you see a good price, take it. Do your research. Understand your route and ticket type. Some of this is part of experience, but you can get this from Reddit. Like for example, the airport in Paris is not my favorite. If you're getting a layover there, if you have a connecting flight, meaning you're trying to go, let's say, from Athens to London, and the flight ticket that you see wants you to stop in Paris. You need to look and see how much time is that layover. Again, it depends on what type of travel you are. I'm a very cautious person. I don't like to cut anything close, so I like to have at least an hour or two. My friends think I'm crazy. They're like, that is too much time. For me, that is my sanity and my peace of mind, and I do not mind staying in the airport and exploring. So please, if you see a good price, make sure you really understand where it's leaving. Many cities also have multiple airports. Tokyo, for example, we instructed students to book flights to HND, the airport with the airport code HND. Some students did not. They booked it for the other airport in Tokyo, which is 2 hours away. So really make sure that you understand your route, your ticket type. In terms of ticket type, I mostly mean like what kind of economy do you have? There are now all sorts of airfares, which is good for all of us because it makes things affordable. But if you get a lot of times if you get the most basic ticket, it's not going to include your luggage, or it'll only, sometimes it won't even include like a carry-on. But also, I think you can tell me, Andy, I know in Europe, their like a luggage size and weights, it's a lot smaller, I think, than what we have in the US. So when you're packing, and you're going to multiple places, you probably want to keep that in mind.
Yeah, especially for those budget airlines, like, okay, a ticket's $40, it looks awesome, but then that's not including any luggage or anything. And then if they'll measure your bag and weigh your bag, and if you just have a backpack, it's free if it makes, like, it's within the dimensions, but if it's not, they're going to charge you. They're going to charge you what you would have paid for a regular flight ticket, $100 extra, something like that. It's happened, unfortunately, but just be in mind when you buy those cheap, it's kind of like Spirit. They have them all over there. Be in mind that you pack light if you're going to take these little flights.
And if they charge you, you're going to get charged on both ways.
Yeah,
so you just want to make sure that you understand, do you want or you have any layovers? As you start traveling more, again, you may have a favorite airline, you may have a favorite airport, you may start feeling more comfortable doing like a regular trip that you add a layover to because you really want to see London. Okay, so just know that. And then book with your preferred airline, but consider budget and regional airlines to save some money. My biggest advice is even if you're going to use, let's say, Skyscanner or Google Flights to find the flight, I will always go directly to, say, Delta's website once I found it and book there. Because if anything were to happen, like your flight were to get canceled, or you need to change your flight, you're going to get a better service from the airlines if you book directly with them. Third parties, if you book with a third party, even something that's great as Skyscanner, and you call Delta about a flight, they're going to say you need to contact the person that
I know they say, what, is it a Tuesday?
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't really know if that works. What I do know works is put your browser on incognito mode. A lot of people were doing that when I was over there, and I guess it works because it would lower the prices because it doesn't know where you are. And then you can find flights that way, but
and it doesn't know your search history.
Yeah.
Those are things you'll hear, like, oh, book on a Tuesday, Thursday, do the incognito flight. I will say I have just had mixed experiences.
Same.
It's kind of hard to tell, but if it brings you peace of mind and you feel like you're getting a good deal, then do it. It's not going to hurt you to search in incognito mode, at least I think. And these are just two examples, again, of making sure you understand of different type of ticket combinations. For my trip to Tokyo, I had a connecting flight from Atlanta to Minneapolis, and then from Minneapolis to Tokyo. You can see that +1 will always mean you're arriving a day earlier or later, depending on what the country is. But then you can see on my flight back to Atlanta, it was a direct flight. So I just get on, and then when I arrive, this really matters when it comes to luggage. Do you really want to be having all this luggage? Usually your luggage will forward on, but there's a chance that there is always a chance it can get lost or it can get placed on the wrong flight. So we'll talk about it a little bit, but when I pack, if I'm checking a bag, which I don't usually do, but if I do, I always make sure I have at least 1 day's worth of clothes and toiletries and things in my carry-on in case that bag does not arrive with me for whatever reason. On my on a different trip, let's say from Atlanta to Athens, you can see I had a direct flight there, but then I had actually a very long layover. I think it was 20 hours from Athens to London. And you can also see what time it arrived. It was late at night. That was intentional. I intentionally chose this flight, not because it was affordable, but because I could have a full day in London, and it was like an extra bonus on my trip. So just knowing all the different combinations will be able to help you. Okay. Moving on, where are you going to stay? I think this comes up a lot, especially at you all's age. When we were discussing, Andy and I, before we gave this presentation about hostels. Who in here has heard of a hostel?
The hostels are cool if you're with this is all, again, based off of money and how you want to do your trip. It was a big thing for me, too. Hostels are fun if you're with a group of friends. I've gone with just one friend, though, and then we're in a hostel with other people. And you can get a super nice hostel, like he just said, or you can get a really dirty one. You can have you have to just be down to sleep with people from other parts of the world that you've never seen or met before. Like, you have no idea who they are. You may not even talk to them. Make sure you lock your stuff up, because they have locks, all the beds. But you just have to be willing to sleep in a dirty room, maybe, if the price is good, because sometimes they're...
Maybe.
What, the hostel's what, $25 sometimes?
I mean, they're very affordable.
They're very affordable, and some of them have been great.
I will say this too, just really do your research.
Yeah.
Personally, I told you I solo travel a lot. As a woman, safety is a big thing for me. And actually for myself, in some cases, staying in a hostel is more safe for me. Same example is usually, another good thing about hostels, if you do your research, is if you're solo traveling again, and you think about safety, they can help you arrange travel and activities. So if you've heard of Siem Reap, Angkor Wat, and all the temples and things, it can get pretty pricey to go and see all those things. I was able to share this little, what's called a tuk-tuk with 3 other people. One was from Japan, one was from here, 3 other ladies, and for 2 or 3 days, we stayed in the hostel and we traveled together, and we were able to have that experience, which was nice. I don't think at that time I would have done it because it would have been way too expensive for me. Hotels, so they can range. Everyone knows what hotels are. I will say again, every country is different. Do your research. You could think the hotel would be expensive, but they just call it a hotel and it's not that expensive, so that could be a good option for you. Guest houses and inns can really range. They can be super expensive, or again, if you're in more rural areas, they may only have what they call guest houses, and they're actually really, really nice. And affordable. And then apartments, I have friends, they like to feel like they are living in the city when they go, so they will only ever book an Airbnb so they can feel like they're part of like a resident or something in the city. Get to packing. This is another fun topic to explore if you really want to get into it, is to pack lightly or to not pack lightly. There's a community, or the more you travel, how many of you all have heard of one bagging? Or one baggers, yeah, okay. I am a strict one bagger. Always have been, always will be. It is, first of all, it challenges you to only bring what you need. Everyone knows 90% of the time you're bringing way more stuff than you're ever gonna use. Secondly, it makes you more mobile, and honestly, like if you need to move quickly or you need something to happen in a good way or a bad way, you're able to pack up and you're able to go. I don't ever bring rolling one bags. I only ever use a nice backpack. And that's also because, you all were in Europe, the cobblestones, or in Japan, getting on those metros and it's not a lot of space. I don't really want to intrude. So I tend to use one of a backpack. How do you pack? I know you're also a one bagger mostly.
I like the backpack the most, and it also goes back to like flying. It's so much cheaper if you just have one backpack that you can fit in the overhead.
And faster too.
Yeah, faster. Also on the public transports, it sucks when you're sitting there with a suitcase. If you just have your backpack, you're good to go. You can go anywhere with it. So backpack for sure.
Yeah, so make a list. Like, don't try to keep things in your head. Oh, I need this, I need that. You will leave something. Check your itinerary. Know your itinerary. Where are you moving a lot? Are you, going somewhere every day? Do you really want to be, rolling that thing? And even if you have a backpack, what kind of backpack? The backpack that you load from the top? Then you have to dig and get all the way to the bottom to get your things, or the backpack that opens out. I like the backpack that opens out. Yeah. I've done the one thing and it does get very. Do your research, pack seasonally. Again, I'm a big hiker, so even if a country generally is warm, maybe on this one hiking thing I'm going to do, it's cooler. Or again, if you're going to Australia, during our winter, that's their summer. If our summer is their winter, so just make sure that you're being aware about those things. Research. Always pack comfortable shoes.
Yeah, shoes are important.
Always pack comfortable shoes, like shoes that you can walk in a lot. And then with clothes, this is something that comes up with my friends that I have to remind them is, you do not need to buy a new outfit every time you're going to go travel somewhere. If that is one of your goals, like my little brothers, I want to get this one shot in Santorini with the blue domes, and which outfit, Mariah, should I wear? That didn't matter for me, but that was a goal for him, so he packed clothes in that way. But I generally say there's really no need to like shop for something, because what happens if you don't like that thing that you just bought because you never worn it, and that can also just increase your program budget. And then don't forget to bring your chargers. You can usually buy things, outlets and different converters when you're in the country, but that's, again, all these buying things, the budget's going to start to go up. Finally, especially for my ladies or anyone who is really into skincare and their hair and all that type of things, make sure you bring enough of all of your toiletries, because, if you're like me and you only use like certain things, then you want to make sure that you have those things. That's the only thing that can get challenging with the one bag, is all the liquids and things like that. I don't know how I figured it out, but somehow I figured it out. Any other packing advice?
Portable charger. Get a good portable charger.
Oh, yeah.
That was my best friend. Because if you get stuck at like a train station or whatever and your phone's dying, you can't plug it in.
Oh, yeah.
Portable charger gets you.
Portable, and also when you're out taking all those photos with that phone, that battery is draining. That's really good. Okay, we're at the last bit of this. I want to leave some time. I won't actually talk too much about this. This is just stuff that is not the fun stuff, but it's the stuff that you can have a bad experience if you don't take care of it. Just make sure your finances. So if you're going to be using a debit card, a credit card, and those things, make sure you tell your bank that you're traveling, and make sure you understand the foreign transaction fees. So the fee that your bank may or may not charge you to pay whatever that merchant is in the currency. I recommend, if you're going to use a debit card, to go with, maybe you can watch this again, to go with Charles Schwab Bank. That's because they have zero fees, zero ATM fees and things, and they don't charge you any foreign transaction fees. It's just a debit card. It's not a credit card. There are lots of credit cards out there. I will not talk to you about those things because it's a personal decision about whether or not you want to do those things. But just make sure. And then also, I forgot to mention, always make sure you have multiple ways to pay.
Yep.
I had someone I know that went abroad. They only had their one thing. Yes, they had all the money, but for some reason, even though they told their bank, their bank was declining everything, and they didn't have the next part set up, which I'll talk to you about, which is their phone. So it was really challenging for them to even just eat, even though they had the money. So always make sure you come into the country with a little bit of cash. It doesn't have to be a lot. And then finally, do your research and make sure you understand what cities are card friendly and what places are just cash.
No, that's important. The cash only, and like, for example, you wouldn't think, but Germany, cash. They love cash.
Oh, wow.
Everything is
I wouldn't
cash.
have thought that.
So if you want to go get something, they're going to say, nope, cash. So, and I didn't have cash when I first got there. So yeah, make sure you see what's cash and what's not. And then, like you said, I went to France with a group of buddies. I ended up paying for the guy the whole time, and he just kept Venmoing me because his cards didn't work. His bank said, no, we're not allowing you to make the transactions over there. So research, again.
Yeah. And do not exchange all of your cash at the airport.
Don't do
You
that.
will lose. Literally, it can be a difference. Like you can lose like hundreds, like $100 or however much, depending on how much you exchange. If you need to get just a little bit, that's fine. I can't go into so much details because we don't have time about where do you go to do the currency exchange. But do your research, and I'm sure you'll find it. Finally, your service. Things have changed over the years. I'm not all that old, but I'm old enough that there wasn't any eSIMs when I first started doing my traveling. It was just SIM cards. But just know about your international phone plans. I know Verizon has a day-by-day. It's like $10 a day, unlimited everything. But that can add up if you think about it. 14 days is $140 versus they have an unlimited plan that's for a month. That's $100 if you want to do that. There's something called an eSIM versus a SIM card, but you must call your provider and ask them if your phone is unlocked. If you have an iPhone, you can see under the cellular service, it will tell you eSIM, if you can do that or not. You can save a lot of money getting an eSIM for data and things like that. And then download Google Maps offline. And make sure you can go and you can isolate an area on your Google Maps. It'll download it for you when you have Wi-Fi and things like that. So if you're out and about and either something happens and you don't have service or you never had service, you'll still be able to have those maps and be able to navigate. So all those things, everything we talked about today was the real adulting. Like you need to make sure you have money, you need to do this. It wasn't necessarily all the fun things that you see on TikTok, but doing all of these things will allow you to have those TikTok-like experiences. I don't know if you know much about Anthony Bourdain, but he really was a great traveler. And as he says, traveling actually isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's this or that, but the journey changes you. It leaves a mark on you, and hopefully that all the people, the wonderful people that you will meet and the friends that you'll make as you travel, you'll also leave something good behind there. Do you have one, in terms of respecting cultural norms or opening yourself up to cultural norms or a different culture, do you have like one short story from your time in Germany that you want to share that was like transformative or that you always...
One thing that I noticed over there is I hung out with like Italian, Spanish, Finnish, people from all over the world, and we in America, we're used to like, 8 o'clock we go to work, and then 5 p.m. we're done, and then go home, eat dinner at 6 or 7, something like that. And then they don't do that. They get up at 11, 12, they eat dinner at 10 p.m., and they're awake till 4 or 5 in the morning. So if you want to hang out with them, it's one thing you got to get used to, is that they're a lot later.
There's different concepts of
So
time.
yeah, that's just one small example that I had to get used to.
And I will say, when things like, when differences do happen, don't try to explain them away and rationalize them, or say, oh, that's silly. Why do they do things that day? A lot of times there's rational reasons, like in Greece. What you're saying is super hot during the day. Like it's 100, it can get over 100 degrees during the day. From a very practical point of view, it's just not even very practical to be out doing a lot of activities. So things in Athens people don't really start to come out or do anything until it's dark and it's like 8 or 9. So it kind of makes sense. But okay, so our office has 15 different scholarships. You only submit one application, all for study abroad, just for studying abroad. You only submit one application, and then we will consider you for any that you're eligible for. Some of them are fully funded, including your airfare. Some of them are $5,000, $1,000, $500. And then there's also other opportunities outside of the KSU scholarships. There's one called the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship. I'm a big advocate for it. It's up to $5,000. You can get up to an additional $1,000 if you're STEM, and up to an additional $3,000 if you're studying what's called a critical need language, but you do have to be a Pell Grant recipient for that one. And then there's another one called the Fund for Education. There's several, there's hundreds. I would love to talk to you more about it, or anyone in this room. We do advising. You can scan this QR code. Actually, it'll take you to our portal where you can see all the programs that we have coming up this summer, as well as the 2 exchange programs that our GA, our global ambassadors, have done here. And then there's also a little link there that says scholarships and advising. And I'm happy to talk to you a little bit more about it. And we're happy to work with you too to write those essays.